First of all, I would like to give glory and honor to our God, who has done wonderful, marvelous works through our fellowship for 70 years. And then I'd like to thank our churches, led by our pastors, you who love missions and love missionaries, and you're leading the way in the Great Commission. Thank you. And then I'd like to thank our missionaries who have said, I'll go to the regions beyond. I'll take the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they have given a great surrender unto the Lord. But what an awesome privilege to take the gospel to another country in another language and tell someone who had never heard of Jesus. Thank you to our missionaries. Thank you. The Baptist Bible Fellowship International started in 1950 with 19 missionaries in 4 foreign countries. Those countries were China, Mexico, Japan, and the Philippines. In those days, they traveled by ship to the field and even in some cases had to live in tents. Those early pioneer missionaries were real heroes and not afraid to sacrifice. Dr. Fred Donaldson, our first mission director, wanted missions to be the heartbeat of our fellowship. He called missions the strong right arm of our fellowship. Dr. Donaldson and his family went as missionaries to China in 1933, but World War II made things very difficult for them. The Donaldson family even spent time in prisoner of war camps. Later, when the communist forces took over, their safety was jeopardized, and they, with heavy hearts, had to leave their beloved China. In January 1951, the Bill Logan family, who worked with the Donaldsons in China, relocated to Taiwan, reaching many of the Chinese who escaped from the mainland. Soon they were joined by others to continue reaching the Chinese people with the gospel. When our movement began, missionaries already in other parts of Asia joined the Baptist Bible Fellowship International. In Japan were the Fosters, the Rogers, and the Marsdens. And let me pause just for a second. But tonight we have Laverne Rogers with us. If he would please stand. Yes. Brother Rogers is 94 years old. 94 years old. You like that, didn't you? 94 years old, and tomorrow he celebrates being a missionary for 71 years. In the Philippines were the Hoagies, Gullions, and Hughes. Our mission force began to grow in Asia. Many Americans who fought as soldiers in the Far East saw the great need for Christ in these war-ravaged countries and went back as missionaries. Those early works are today very strong, and now in the Philippines there are over 5,000 churches. Many of them are sending out their own missionaries. There are currently 139 approved BBFI missionaries in 12 countries of Asia. Even before the BBFI officially began, some of our missionaries were already serving in Latin America. The Smiths were in Mexico beginning in 1944. The de Vilbis family went to Mexico in 1946. Miss Georgia Webb has served there since 1948 and is still there today at the age of 93. Soon after the fellowship began, we started sending missionaries to other countries near our borders, like Canada, the islands of the Caribbean, and on into Central and South America. We also sent missionaries to minister among the Native Americans on the reservations in our own country. In 1952 and 1953, the McCartneys and the Bartons were approved to go to Brazil. In 1954, the Lingos were sent to Chile. In 1958, the Johnsons went to Peru. Today, the Lord has blessed us with 42 missionaries in our Native American reservations, in Canada, and in the Caribbean. We have 157 missionaries ministering in Mexico and 14 countries in Central and South America. In addition, we have 13 chaplains that serve in our military branches. Dr. Jack Bridges became our second mission director following the retirement of Dr. Donaldson. He had previously served as a pastor of a strong missions-minded church and cared much for our missionaries. Europe had the gospel for centuries before we had it in the United States. However, in 1962, BBFI missionaries began to take the gospel back into Europe. The Donahos, the Mollers, and the Dedions were some of our first missionaries to Europe. They went to countries filled with people who knew about religion but did not fully realize their great need for the Savior. In 1990, when the Eastern European communist countries began to open up to the Western world and the Berlin Wall was physically dismantled, we initiated a major push to get missionaries into Eastern Europe, entering more countries which were previously closed. Now in Europe, the BBFI has 129 missionaries in 16 countries. Faithful American church members are the ones who have given sacrificially through their local churches to send missionaries all around the world. We are all in this together. This concept of a unified effort was strongly pushed by our third mission director, Dr. Carl Boonstra. He used the Swahili term, Harambe, which means let's all pull together. He preached that everywhere. Oceania is the name given to the islands of the South Pacific. Our missionaries, like the Nelsons and the Matthews, the Mosleys, the McAllisters, went to Australia, Papua New Guinea, and into New Zealand. The BBFI has had missionaries in some of these countries since 1957, and some have had great results. However, these countries are not very receptive to the gospel. And because of this fact, the missionaries have had to work very hard to evangelize and disciple and plant churches. Today, we have over 40 missionaries in this region of the world. Dr. Bob Baird served as our fourth mission director for 19 years. The Bairds had previously served as missionaries in Jamaica, and Dr. Baird served as the pastor of the Hallmark Baptist Church in Fort Worth, Texas. His vision was to reach the unreached people groups around the world. Our mission force grew under his leadership. We now have missionaries who minister in creative access nations across the Middle East and other locations. The African continent has been a productive field for the BBFI. Our first missionaries to Africa were Elmer and Mary Deal. They went to Congo in 1957. Soon after, new missionaries entered countries like Ethiopia. These were very difficult places to minister and can still be today. Wars, communism, nationalism forced many missionaries out of these countries. However, because of the recent changes, BBFI missionaries have now begun to return to these places. Africa is a large continent with billions of people. Our church planting missionaries have reached into both large cities and rural areas with the gospel. It's exciting to know that in places like Kenya today, we have 1,000 churches. The BBFI currently has 52 missionaries serving in 13 African countries. Jon Konnerup is the fifth mission director in our 70-year history. The Konnerup served as missionaries to Kenya for 11 years. His desire is to see our efforts in cooperation with international brothers and sisters in the task of the Great Commission. We now have missionaries who are ministering, every year we see missionaries sent around the world from churches that have been planted in Japan and Korea, the Philippines and Mexico and Brazil and Kenya and Costa Rica that are sending out missionaries from their countries to other parts of the world. With such humble beginnings, It's amazing to look back and see what God has done, what He has done through His people. In the last 10 years, we have averaged processing support from our churches over $35 million a year. This great historical achievement has not come without a price. Many missionary heroes have given everything while sacrificially serving their Lord. Many of them are now gone to heaven, or they've retired, and we desperately need others to take their places and help continue to spread the gospel around the world. There are still great opportunities ahead and work that needs to be done. But who is going to fill their shoes? The future of BBFI mission efforts rests upon the vision of our pastors, leading their churches to continue sending missionaries and giving sacrificially to missions. As our world's population continues to grow, so does the desperate need for more laborers. There are more people to reach now than ever before. Yet the Lord of the harvest has already offered the solution for the huge task that is before us. When He saw the multitudes in His day, He said to His disciples in Matthew chapter 9, verse 37 and 38, "The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that He will send forth laborers into His harvest." We have initiated Project 938, and pastors and churches from around the world are already planning to join in a concerted effort to pray for more laborers. The mission office has assembled some tremendous resources, including printable graphics, Bible study lessons, video testimonies, and much more to help you promote this in your church, all working toward our 938 Sunday on October 3rd, 2021. You'll not want to miss tomorrow morning's mission service, because there we're going to give you a lot more details about this eternity-changing event. Let's pray together for more missionaries and for God's continued blessing as we work to reach our world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Our missionaries have been trained in places like BBC, Boston Baptist College. They've been trained to follow the Great Commission by making disciples of all nations and teaching them to observe all that God has commanded. Let me show you a little bit of a glimpse of the results of the 70 years of obedience to God in world missions. Watch this video.
The Baptist Bible Fellowship International is a fellowship of pastors that unite for the purpose of evangelism, discipleship, and church planning around the globe. This vision reaches all the way back to our beginnings in 1950, when we approved 19 missionaries to the countries of China, Japan, Mexico, and the Philippines. By 1960, we saw the missionary population increase to 169 missionaries in 17 countries. Currently, there are over 700 missionaries in 80 countries all around the world. Throughout the decades, the Baptist Bible Fellowship International has approved over 1,800 career missionaries to take the gospel to over 120 countries. These missionaries are focused on the mission of evangelism, discipleship, and church planning. Through their efforts, hundreds and thousands have been saved and discipled. Over 20,000 churches have been started outside of the United States of America. This is made possible through the faithful giving of our U.S. churches that has totaled over $1.1 billion. The churches started through the efforts of our missionaries have caught the vision, and they are sending out their own people as church planting missionaries around the world. From the Mexico BBF, we have families that are working among tribal ethnic groups. They have also sent missionary families to serve the Lord in Latin America, Spain, Europe, and the Middle East. The Japan Baptist Bible Fellowship have sent missionary families to Asia, Africa, Latin America, and creative access countries. The churches affiliated with Korea Baptist Bible Fellowship have approved missionary families to serve the Lord in Asia, Australia, Latin America, and Africa. Churches in the Philippines have collectively sent over 250 missionary families. These families are serving the Lord in Asia, Africa, the United States, Latin America, Europe, the Middle East, and creative access nations. Churches in Ecuador have sent missionaries to Argentina, Panama, and the United States. Missionaries from churches in Brazil have been sent to the Amazon tribes, Paraguay, Africa, and East Timor. Missionaries from Peru have been sent throughout Latin America, Asia, Spain, Morocco, the Middle East, and Israel. Missionaries from Canada have been sent to creative access nations. Missionaries from churches in Europe have been sent throughout Europe, Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Missionaries from Russia have been sent to Borneo, Indonesia. Churches in Australia have sent missionaries to 25 countries in Latin America, Europe, Africa, Japan, Asia, and the islands of the Pacific. Missionaries from churches in Kenya have been sent to South Sudan and Tanzania. Missionaries from Tanzania have been sent to Mozambique. Our international force of missionaries is growing every day. The number of missionaries is approaching 450. We are sending out missionaries from everywhere to everywhere. Our challenge to pastors, churches, and missionaries of the Baptist Bible Fellowship International is to stay focused and continue in the vision of evangelism, discipleship, and church planning all around the world.